Happy 2025, everybody. Welcome to Big Blue Avenue. I'm Tom Scavetta, joined alongside Sam Cardona Norberg. Sam, a rather unique show for you and I tonight. It may sound like a cacophony of just sickness everywhere, but we're doing it for the fans. We're powering through.
We sure are. It's whatever mysterious illness is going around to everyone right now. We got it, and but we're powering through for the New York Giants and the fans.
The winning New York Giants, I should add. If you don't know me, folks, obviously I got the Notre Dame sweatshirt on. I'm on cloud nine right now. Notre Dame just beat Georgia, so to transition from a 13-1 team to a 3-13 team in the matter of minutes is kind of abrupt and frustrating. But, folks, we have a lot to talk about tonight. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media. Sam, a win on Sunday. I know it was on the 29th, but opening up the new year with a win. Does this bring a new sense of ways here for Big Blue? Is Drew Lock finally starting to get things, or do you think that was a bit of a diamond in the rough as far as performances go?
I definitely think it was one of those good days for Drew Lock. Obviously, we haven't seen 40-plus points on the board since Daniel Jones's rookie year. It's been quite some time since we've seen that type of number on the scoreboard. But no, I really don't think that this is something that's going to be like changing anything for the most part other than our draft pick. I think that Drew Lock is not someone who has proven himself in the way that would make him a starting quarterback for the New York Giants in any way. I think that it's time. Unfortunately, he did what he had to do, but I think that it was just kind of like a good game for him. You know, everyone's going to have a good game. You know, a broken clock is right twice a day. So, you know, it's kind of bound to happen at some point, but I think that, yeah, it's not something that's going to be changing for the future.
I agree. He does deserve a lot of credit. 5 total touchdowns from him, 4 passing, 1 rushing, a career game. He had one last year with Seattle too. But yet you can't really blame Drew Lock. He's getting a lot of hate. Drew Lock is likely not going to be with the team next year. He is fighting to stick around in the NFL. Folks, if you're going to blame anybody for the Giants winning on Sunday, blame the Colts. They couldn't stop Malik Nabers. It's not like the Giants could stop Jonathan Taylor. You have to blame the Colts. That team has fallen apart. Flacco did not look good, and there was zero answer for Malik Nabers. So I'm not going to sit here and blame the Giants. They did their job. They're playing to win football games, as they should. Noah Dog Diveler, sorry, buddy. Can I get a go dogs? Hoo, hoo, hoo. Fluff off with that hoodie. You know what? At least one of my football teams is doing something right. At least one of them. That's right. They haven't won since 2024. But yeah, I agree. Enough on the game, really. All I will say, Malik Nabers if he has competent quarterback play next year, Sam, he's going to be a top 5 receiver, hands down, in this league.
I was happy to see that he was able to get his personal accomplishment for himself, and to be able to say that he is someone who's gotten over 1,000 yards in his rookie year. You know, like there's got to be something good that comes out of the New York Giants, and hopefully this kind of kickstarts. You know, despite the record of the team showing not so great, to have Malik Nabers have a monumental season for himself. Hopefully that kind of propels him forward, because just from all those locker room, press meetings and everything like that, like it is so obvious how frustrated he is and how he just wants to win and he wants to do well and, all this stuff. And he's very visibly frustrated. And I hope that this accomplishment kind of helps him out a little bit in terms of, what he's able to do and what the team's able to do. And that this upcoming draft and next season will be hopefully a bit of a turning point for him and the team.
No, absolutely. And I think before we get to even that, we have to make our predictions. Sam, it's been a long season. The Giants are 3-13. It's time to make our official predictions. Are Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll safe? We know John Mara came out midway through the season and said he does not anticipate any changes being made. Since then, the Giants have gone 1-7, 1-8. It's been awful. They just won their first game since, I think, October 5th or something like that. Let's start with Brian Daboll. Are you getting rid of him or are you keeping him?
I I have to say I kind of have to go into this with both of their names on my tongue because I think that Brian Daboll should stay and Joe Schoen should go just because of our past with firing head coaches and keeping GMs. I think I mentioned this on the show maybe a couple weeks ago, but we have constantly fired the head coach and kept the GM, and it never really worked out. So genuinely, I feel like while I cannot imagine they get rid of them both. Like, the idea of starting again with a new GM and a new head coach and most likely a new quarterback and like completely starting from scratch, like I feel like that's not the best move. I think like there needs to be one constant, and I think it should be the coach. However, I do think it's going to be Daboll that gets let go, and Shane is going to be sticking around.
Yeah, for me with Brian Daboll, I think he is a good coach that's capable of winning games, but I'm out on him for these reasons. He lacks attention to detail too much. He's gotten out coached very often the last couple of years. Too much analytics go in, especially on 2-point conversions. He is hot-headed. He lets his temper get the best of him at times.
Mhm.
A little too often for me. I just think he's more of an offensive play caller, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I don't know if he can control 53 guys every Sunday throughout the course of a season. And orchestrating that trade up for Jalen Hyatt, right, and being unable to develop him, it's not a good sign at all. And it's not just that, too. It's how long it took Malik to look well this year.
Mhm.
Getting competent quarterback play from Jones in 22, but not in 23 or 24, that also falls on Brian Daboll. It doesn't all fall on Daniel Jones. And I just think being unable to coach some of these players that need a little grooming, that need a little work, he has not filled out his coaching staff accordingly. I think Shane Bowen was an awful hire at defensive coordinator. And as we saw in Hard Knocks, Brian Daboll played a large role in that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to consider there. But without spoiling too much, although I'm going to, Daboll's the more likely one to go, but I don't think that's what it should be. I think Joe Schoen could go. And I guess we'll go reverse here so I could stick with that. Joe Schoen has missed several draft picks in his first 2 years as a GM. And let's take away the Daniel Jones situation for a moment. If you hit on picks like Evan Neal, Josh Azudu, and Marcus McKeithen, John Michael Schmitz. And look, JMS is a starter. He's an NFL starter, but he's bottom 5 center right now, starting center. If you didn't miss on all those offensive line picks, you're not sitting there overpaying for John Runyon and Jermaine Illuminar in free agency and Austin Schlott and saying, yeah, we can't bring Saquon or McKinney back. It has less to do with the Daniel Jones deal for me. It was a 2-year out. They got that out. Yes, there's dead money, but there's no overriding cap into 25 and 26. It wasn't the worst contract in the world. Most of us were for it at the time, just maybe not $40 million a year. The problem is the roster lacks depth. There is no depth on this roster at all. If Andrew Thomas is out, the whole O-line sucks. It goes from an average unit to like a bottom 3, bottom 5 unit. If Dexter Lawrence is out, the run defense looks like the worst in the league. And don't tell the media that we're not far off because you're losing 1-score games. Most losing teams lose 1-score games. It's the NFL. Every week is a parity week. You never know what's going to happen. And the losses they had to teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 9-7 right now, you shouldn't be losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in year 3 of a rebuild by 23 points. It can't happen. And basically drafting for need. He's drafted for need way too often, and he's even admitting this. Trading up to get Deonte Banks in 2023. Big mistake when guys like Joey Porter were still on the board.
Yeah.
Look, overpaying for free agent linemen is what he did to compensate bad drafting. And ultimately, it cost us guys like Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley, not bringing back John Feliciano for a cheap deal, or Nick Gates, letting them both go together in the same offseason, and then putting yourself in a situation in the draft where, oh, you have to get a center. And this is the thing too, right? You have to go get a quarterback in this draft. The Giants have locked themselves into that situation. If they keep one or both of this regime, you have zero draft flexibility wherever you're sitting in this draft order. And if they win Sunday, they could be back as far as number 9. So I am 100% out on Joe Schoen, but I think he's safe.
Yeah. It's like
it was a mouthful.
Yeah, it's just so crazy to think about that. Like, and I would argue that we both are people who don't ever root for a tank. We're not rooting for our team to lose. However, at this point in time, it would be more beneficial for a higher draft pick, and I'm not going to sit there and say like, God, I wish the Giants would lose, because that's just like, what kind of fan are you to think like, I don't know. It's just like, that's just the way that I think the both of us could agree is how our brains work. But like, to go in and to play well and to, show like good sportsmanship and just play a good game is one thing, and that's what I want to see. And unfortunately, between Daboll and Schoen, like they just really messed up a lot of things. And we were so excited for the both of them to come in, coming from the Buffalo Bills. It made so much sense on paper. But yeah, it's really unfortunate how things have gone. And again, I think that Schoen has made many, many more mistakes, as you've listed, than Brian Daboll has. And Brian Daboll, I would argue, again, you made the good point of saying he's more of an offensive minded. I think that there are just head coaches that are better coordinators, and they focus on, he was an OC before this, and that's why the Bills were as good as they were. They were able to perform, and he helped develop Josh Allen, and like, we obviously see the benefits of everything that's happened there. But it's not everybody is head coaching material, unfortunately, and that's kind of the situation that the Giants have been put in.
So I think we both agree we'd both rather see Schoen go, but we know that's not realistic with the way NFL front offices work. It's
right.
You can't force a GM, or you can't force a head coach on a new GM. The Titans did it a couple of years ago. It did not work.
It's all around just real tough. It's a real tough situation, but hopefully John Mara can figure it out and give us at least a winning season at some point.
Yeah, look, the real problem is you still got people like Kevin Abrams, Tim McDonald, and Chris Mara all in the same front office. And look, Tim McDonald's not awful, but I mean, it's a family-run business. And a lot of times those don't always work, especially in the NFL, and ever so adapting NFL. But that's ultimately where we're at, folks. Let us know what you think about Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. We'll see what happens on Sunday. I hope the players go out and play their role for Brian Daboll. We heard from Kayvon Thibodeau in the media today saying he wants Daboll to stay. We'll see what happens. We'll definitely see. But we'll be bringing up the Sporty Jordy shortly. Sam, excited for that. How about Dexter Lawrence getting named to the Pro Bowl, and he can't even play?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, though, I would argue Pro Bowl is more of a title award. They go off and they play flag football and dodgeball and whatever else that they do over there, and it's more of a fun summary activity that they get to do in February or the end of January. So I think that it's just more of a, something you'd like to see. Like, yeah, you're a Pro Bowler, and that's really exciting. And like the fact that Patrick Mahomes isn't a Pro Bowler this year. So
Sam Darnold is, Jaden Daniels is.
Good for Sam Darnold.
Man, I sound awful tonight.
We're making it through, Tom. We're making it through.
Sickness is sinus and congestion, but doing the best we can, folks. Northeast weather not helping. How about Malik Neighbors and Brian Burns being named Pro Bowl alternates? Burns being healthy essentially the whole season, not getting hurt, and Malik Neighbors scoring 2 touchdowns this past week, I think solidified his spot as an alternate. And, if teams make the big game, they could call upon him to play. So I'm really excited for him moving forward. And Sam, I don't know about you, not that he's content with where the Giants are. He's handling this better than I thought he would with the way he's talking to the media. He's really maturing before our very own eyes, and he's being a pro's pro.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was something that in the beginning of the season we were a little nervous about, right? Like with Malik, he and even in the last few weeks we've seen the development. Like only a month ago he was talking about how, he's just like, oh, I didn't pay for a plane and I didn't do that, and this and that. So I'm sure that, he's a rookie. He wants to see his team win. And, he's, like I said earlier, he's been frustrated, but he is going to only get better is, the anticipation here. And in every stretch of the imagination, dealing with the media, you get better media training and, you continue to go out there and play good football. And yeah, I mean, Pro Bowl alternate in your first year, odds are there's going to be someone in this mix that's going to be in the playoffs that won't be in the Pro Bowl. So it's like or in the Super Bowl rather. So yeah, I'm excited for him and his future with us, hopefully, and he doesn't give up on us too quickly.
No, certainly not. Long off season ahead, most exciting time of the year for the Giants, which is why I almost just can't wait for this game to be over.
Yeah.
Just so to see everything that goes down, because it's the most exciting time of the year for us Giants fans. That's when all the content starts spitting out. And this week we have an interesting challenge. Yeah, mock draft. We're gonna have to do one of those. A couple actually.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting.
Okay, Sam, let's bring up the stat. 2013, the last time the Giants won in the city of Philadelphia.
If we win this weekend, like, what does that even mean? If it's been, at this point, like, almost 12 years, and, like, we win in Phil, I don't know what I would do. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know what I'd do.
I think Daboll would be left there. Would not make it back up the turnpike. Probably get stopped at a Wawa or something and just leave him there.
He used to hitchhike his way home up the turnpike.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah, no, it's gonna be rough.
Only a 3-point spread, so, and I know it's we know why. Yeah. But let's get more information on this game. Let's bring up our guest for the evening, the Sporty Jordy. Sam, I'll have you carry this because my voice sounds disgusting tonight. Welcome to the show, Jordan. Happy New Year.
Hi, Happy New Year's, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are always a pleasure to have you on here, Jordan. We're very excited to talk about this, and we have already had this conversation several times at this point, but let's talk a little bit about this game. How are you feeling going into it? No starters. I don't know if you just heard the stat about Giants not winning in Philly since 2013. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, this is the first time in a very long time where I get to go into an Eagles game and just not care because no matter what, we're locked into the 2 seed. Obviously I want the Eagles to win at all costs, but like, this is the first game where it's just like, like it doesn't mean much. And that's unfortunate because I was hoping that it meant a lot in terms of the Saquon Barkley rushing record. So I was even thinking about going to the game if I found out he was playing, just because I was like, I want to be there. I want to witness it. But yeah, the decision was made. So now we go in and see if the Giants want to go for another win and mess up the draft order a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be a weird game.
I know that, Jordan and I have spoken about this, but Tom, I actually haven't heard your thoughts specifically on Saquon Barkley getting sat. So what are your thoughts on this? Because Jordan and I agree.
It's the correct move from a longevity standpoint, because the last thing you want to see him do is, okay, he might break this record today, but at what expense? Would you rather win a championship or have Saquon beat? Because I feel like if the Eagles weren't playing the Giants, Jordan, you probably wouldn't care about this as much. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That's how I see it.
I don't think so.
No.
I think it adds a whole nother level to it just because, like, it's very poetic in the way it ended. But I think either way, I would want him to go for it. But I agree with what you said as well. Like from a GM standpoint, from a coach standpoint, if it was any other situation, it would be a no-brainer. He wouldn't play this game. So I get it. It just stinks because I thought he deserved it after this season.
Well, true. If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm like, oh yeah, go get it. Go.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Mara's going to be there. Have him sit there and watch this, and make him lose more sleep at night. Like, damn. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, did you guys see the ad? There was a Saquon ad that was like, are you losing sleep? And I went,
I did. I refused to like it, but
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for a single second.
It should be Joe Shane, not John Mara, though. I mean, we saw how John Mara felt about it. There's nothing he could do about it.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for Mara. Not so much for Joe, though.
I know that I'm looking on our script right now. Tom, you put a link in here about Saquon Barkley's family not being too happy about this. So that's pretty interesting. Have you seen anything like, are there any videos or anything of that?
So I believe the reporter's name is Devin Caney.
Oh, yeah. Devin Caney.
Devin. Okay. So he goes, it was an opportunity to imprint my name in football history. Might not ever get an opportunity like that again. But at the end of the day, I don't care for putting the team at risk. I told my family probably wanted a little bit more than me. I mean, yeah, because the family is more fans than, he's looking at it from a different perspective. He wants to get it, but he's closer to Sirianni than we are. He knows, I mean, he's probably the adult of the two, but, it is, I think it's the right call. It sucks, but especially with no Dexter. With no Dexter Lawrence either. Yeah, run all over.
Yeah, I think Nick Sirianni too is playing it really safe because last season we did play starters in a meaningless game and then we lost AJ and we didn't have AJ for our playoff game and we lost. And so which again, like any other situation, no record on the line, Saquon Barkley, no question. I'm like, do not let him touch that field. But yeah, Tom, this was a point that Sam and I brought up on our show last night. It was kind of alluding to what you were saying, like, because it's a Giants-Eagles matchup, we were saying, like, obviously the Giants can't go out there and just let him go. Like, that's not how it works. But do you think the guys would not go as hard against him on the Giants, or do you think that would make them vice versa go more intense and they're like, no, you're not doing this to us?
Well, not to take a step back for a moment, and I'll definitely answer that, but the week 7 game, whatever it was, didn't he sit himself so that he didn't break the whatever single game record against the Giants? So I don't know. I
had a feeling that
tough.
Maybe the
I
players,
agree, though.
The Giants don't hate, the players don't hate Saquon.
No, they love each other.
Yeah, so it's like that's kind of the argument that Jordan and I were talking about on Unsolicited was like, maybe they would kind of open it up and be like, yeah, get an extra yard or two here or there just to kind of, work your way down the field.
Getting calls from Daniel Jones, be like, hey, this is what you got to do. Or Jack Stoll. I mean, we'll get into that later. But I think that was an idiotic move by Howie. That's just we'll get to that, though. The Jack Stoll move when they had 7 corners, but they got rid of the 3rd tight end when Mailata was coming back. And they left them, I don't know, with just Calcaterra and Goddard. And now Uzoma's back on IR. Yeah. Goddard's banged up. Well, you have an injury-prone tight end, and you just 3 tight end. You need 3 tight ends if you're on the Eagles. That's just
Yeah.
Jordan. That's the way I view it. I thought that was a silly move, but again, I'm also biased. I love tight ends.
No, it's such like a crappy hindsight feeling too, because obviously Zach Ertz was so monumental for us and such a big part of our team.
Yeah.
And in the moment when we I can't remember if we traded him or if he was a free agent and signed somewhere else, but when he left, it was so heartbreaking, but you were like, this is the right thing because we have Goddard. And it's like now in hindsight, it's like we easily could have and should have kept Ertz. Like he's still playing strong. Obviously, he's not a tight end 1. He's hurt right now, but he had a pretty impressive season. I'm like, we could have used some of that. But yeah, no, it's tough.
I don't think I even knew CJ Uzomah was on the Eagles.
Yes, that's what I literally said. I was like, he was a big part of the Bengals, and he's like silent for us.
He was on the Jets. I don't think he did a single thing.
No.
I don't even remember him on the Jets.
He was on the Jets last year or 2 years ago.
Wasn't he on the Bengals? Was that not last season?
That was the first team he was on.
Okay.
And then he went to the Jets, and I was like, wow, he's going to do great things. And then literally he's like falling off a cliff. So I didn't even know he was on the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, he is, but he's been hurt.
Well, to get into this. Oh.
I would die.
Jordan just loves the Ravens players as well.
I do. That'd be like perfect. It'd be a mesh.
To get into some of our questions here, Tom, I'll go into the Sirianni conversation again since we were talking about sitting Saquon. But, and Jordan, you know my feelings about Nick Sirianni. I'm not a fan. But based on the past and then also how this season has gone, do you think like he actually has this like coaching longevity with the Eagles, or do you think that maybe the time might be ending? Or I mean, I guess it depends on the postseason, but what are your thoughts on like how long he's going to be with this team?
So low key, that's an incredible question because earlier this season, I was like, I think it's dead. Like we took a chance on him. We had some fun. We saw some really exciting things, but it just didn't seem to be clicking anymore. But right now, with the way things are vibing and the way things are going, I could see him being here for a long time. But again, that really just depends on the outcome of this playoff run. And I don't even even if the Eagles don't make the Super Bowl, as long as we don't just like blow it, like if we're playing good football, but just get beat, like then I think Nick Sirianni stays. I have nothing against him. Like his win record with us is absurd. It's like 42-13 or something. Like
wow.
It's great. I think it's the most or second most in Eagles head coach history. They were just talking about it on one of the Philly networks the other day. So those numbers may be off, but it's something crazy like that. So yeah, he's putting up impressive numbers, but he's a quirky guy and he does some weird things.
Like shave his head.
You know what? Literally when the Eagles were down, I was like, I'm going to go there and shave his head because the second it was shaved, we won and we didn't stop winning. And yeah, so now anytime the Eagles are doing anything bad, I'm going to be like, Nick Sirianni, shave your freaking head, please.
Love that. We have a couple Eagles fans in the comments section, by the way. D-Bake, it's the right call to sit him, especially if no starters play. The call was made when Nick instantly took him out after the run that put him over 2K. You guys are welcome for neighbors. Yes, but is LSU still the CFP, Sean? I don't even think they made it. Notre Dame is, though. I got to have some. Regret letting go of Ertz.
Yeah.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Ooh.
Sirianni is the most Philly coach ever.
It's so true.
Speaking of Philly, Jordan, who's starting at quarterback Sunday? Is it Tanner McKee? And if it is, what should we expect from him?
Yeah, so everything that I'm hearing right now is that it will be Tanner McKee. As of literally this morning, Jalen hasn't practiced yet. It's definitely not going to be Jalen. And Kenny hasn't practiced yet either. So I think we're going to ride with Tanner McKee. My question is, I think we signed Ian Book, but like, God forbid something happens to Tanner McKee. Like we are really picking at straws here. But no, I think we saw some pretty impressive things from him in his first start and what we got to see from him last week. And he was coming in granted, he had a cushion. It's not like he was coming into this like really down to the wire situation, but still, it was a closer game at that point. Anything could have happened. And he really held his own. He had 2 passing touchdowns to Devontae and AJ. Granted, I don't think this game will be as good of an indicator because starters are sitting. So he's not going to have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith with our starting line out there. So it's going to be very different, but I really think he's strong. I was actually shocked earlier this season that he wasn't QB2. I would have picked him over Kenny Pickett any day.
Wow.
So kind of seeing, granted, not taking anything away from Kenny Pickett last week because he also kind of figured it out and held us up. But yeah, I think Tanner McKee's good.
Tanner McKee is insane how well he did last week rather. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's definitely going to see if I don't even know who your depth chart wide receivers are, but
I literally think it's Ian Book.
No, your wide receivers.
Oh, wide receivers. Yeah, it's I mean, maybe Jahan Dotson. Well, we see Jahan Dotson legacy game.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Also, Ian Book. What a name. I have not heard that name in years, I feel like.
Yeah, and we had him before, and then we got rid of him.
He's got a ring with the Chiefs.
Wow. Good
Practice
for him.
Nice. Pop off, Ian Book.
Good for him.
Ian Book, our Super Bowl winning 4th string quarterback.
Love that. Well, let's talk about your tight ends again. And I hate to say it, but I really like Calcaterra. I don't know if it's the vowel at the end of the name or what. It's just that works for me. But obviously he stepped in and has done some amazing things for you guys on offense. Mm-hmm. So what makes him so great? And if it's just clicking into the offense or whatever.
Yeah, I think he's just been so reliable and he shows up. He's not having these massive games, but if you're throwing to him in a big play, he's going to get it done, which that's what we need. And that's, for being fully honest, what Dallas Goedert really hasn't been able to provide for us. And he's just kind of having these big bursts and having these moments. And I definitely hope he sticks around because I'm loving, especially the second half of the season, every time, just Calcaterra, he's just out there doing it. Yeah. So yeah, I want him to stay. And I have a lot of question marks about Goedert right now.
Speaking of Goedert, not to build on that, but the 7 corner move, is there an emphasis on corners in the defense or DBs in general? Obviously, you drafted 2 with Coop and Q. So is there a higher emphasis on that position this year? Obviously, the Eagles have done a really good job limiting opposing ones throughout the season.
Yeah, no, it was such a big hole for us last year. And it's we had big names, but they're just older guys that weren't playing the way you kind of expected them to coming into the season. So I loved that they went out and got really risky with it and got these 2 young star guys. And I feel they are really building it up. And I mean, it has been a monumental part of our defense. Quinyon Mitchell is having this historic rookie season. And Cooper DeJean's absolutely unbelievable. They're just out there doing their things, which is very fun. But yeah, I definitely feel they put a lot more emphasis on it this season. And I'm very, very grateful for it.
I'm so interested to hear what you have to say about this because
no.
I know that you have been talking about, the Eagles postseason since the beginning of the season. You had really no doubt that you guys would be in the postseason this year, which good for you. I'm excited that you're happy about that. But what are you expecting from the Eagles in the playoffs? Genuinely, Delulu aside, are you genuinely think that they're going to the Super Bowl this year?
Yes. No, I genuinely do. And I think the Lions and the Vikings are very, very, very good football teams. I think whoever we have to play, whether it's the Bucks, whether it's the Commanders, like the road there is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. But I said that coming into this season, I was like, we have to play the Bengals in Cincinnati. We have to play the Ravens in Baltimore. Halfway through the season, I was like, fuck, the Steelers are going to be a nightmare. Like there were all these games that I thought were going to be really difficult and they just did it. And like, they weren't always pretty, like they were close, but just like the whole time watching them, it's just like, wow, like they're going to do it. So like granted, we saw what happened last year in the playoffs. So do I think vibes could change for playoffs? Absolutely. It's the postseason. Literally anything can happen. But if they just keep playing the way they have been all season, I think they go to the Super Bowl and I think they win this. I don't think anyone could beat them if they just keep this up.
And how about Zach Bond? The Saints failed to use him the right way, and now look at him.
Every move he makes, I say pay him whatever he wants. Like literally blank, massive check. Anything, I'll buy him a house. Like I don't want him going anywhere. And I remember when we signed him and I was like, oh, nice. Like, but I didn't expect much. And he's just been absolutely unstoppable. Insane.
Absolutely. And Daniel says he expects them to be competitive with every team they play, win or lose. We know the Lions might get Montgomery back, so that could be a potential NFC championship game preview. Also, Minnesota, don't count them out. Oh my!
No.
I mean, do you listen to Kevin O'Connell's post-game locker room speeches ever? They're
I actually
inspiring.
heard one for the first time last week, and I was like, damn.
They're inspiring. Like he's a good young coach. Like he is a player's coach. They love him. Darnold, oh my God.
I actually heard, and this was on Twitter, so I don't know how real this is, but there's conversation that the Vikings are just going to totally ride with Darnold and trade JJ. And I was like, whoa.
I saw some things like people were just saying like in another universe that they would trade JJ McCarthy to the Giants. And I was like, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's worth the shot in the dark for
that would be fire.
The Twitter GMs.
Yeah. I don't know. Who would you rather play in the first round? Would it be Green Bay? I think right now it's Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
And that's who you played week 1. Do you want to see them or do you want to see the Commanders again?
I'd prefer to not see the Commanders. If I don't think there's any world where we can avoid the Commanders and the Bucks, right? Would they play each other?
So the Bucks would get so the Commanders would have to get the 6. The Bucks would have to get the 3, right? Which would require the Rams losing and the Bucks winning. I want to say.
I'm going to the playoff picture.
I have a friend at work who's an Eagles fan saying there's one team that he surprisingly does not want to see in the playoffs, and it's the Bucks.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Bucks in the playoffs.
PTSD.
Yeah. For some reason, Sam, you're going to get ready to clip this part of the podcast and listen to it every day for forever. No, you're going to like it.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, Baker Mayfield beats the Eagles. And I hate everything about it.
I love that man so much.
It's absurd. Commanders, I'm a little hesitant just because of our last game, but I think that's just PTSD. I think realistically, if we play them again, hopefully we just play them like we did the first time and walk away. That was a weird game. Yeah. No, Green Bay is ideal. Let's go. We would win a playoff game. That I feel confident about that. There are some other teams in there though that make me nervous.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it would be Green Bay at Philly right now. Washington at LA. Sorry, her dog's licking water in the background. That's what that sound is. Fiance's dog. Vikings over Lions.
Ooh, interesting.
Vikings money line. That could be very interesting this week. It's tough to sweep divisional opponents. Not to segue, but I just saw that comment. I'm like, that is a thought in my mind.
It's going to be a great game.
It's going to be unreal.
It's going to be a great game. But
I don't know what you think, Sam, but with the Eagles, it's so frustrating as a Giants fan because even with Kelsey retiring, they still have 3 Pro Bowlers this year on their offensive line, and probably a 4th if he played the whole year too. So, not to toot Jordan's horn on that with the offensive line, but my
And our
gosh, they're
defensive
scary.
line, Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
So it's like we lost Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, but now Jalen Carter and Cam Jurgens are both Pro Bowlers. So it was just that next.
I said this to Jordan yesterday or last week or the week, I don't know. I'm losing track of time. I don't know where we are anymore. But I said to her at one point recently that I was like, I am not stupid enough to say that the Eagles are a bad football team, because they're not. They are a very good football team, and definitely goes against all my comments from the beginning of this season where I was like, the Eagles aren't going to the Super Bowl. No way. And here I am eating my words because it's very possible. So
you think it's possible now?
Well, if you're in the playoffs, anything's possible.
Woo! You didn't think we were going to make the playoffs?
No, I didn't think you were going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say anything about the playoffs. But now that you're actually in the playoffs, second seed, it's a different narrative. And, I'm willing to swallow my pride and say anything is possible in the postseason. Like, I think records should just be completely eliminated by the time you get to the postseason because they don't matter. This is a completely different season once you get in there.
Well, look at the college playoff right now. I mean, nobody who had a bye won. So
yeah,
it's incredible.
I mean, didn't Georgia just win the championship last year? Was that Georgia?
2 years ago. Yeah, it was Michigan last year, and then Georgia went
with JJ. Right.
Back to back with Sam's favorite QB, Carson Beck.
I hate him.
No, so it was actually Stetson back to back, I think, and then Carson was just the backup, and then Stockton was the backup to the backup.
Stetson Bennett, who's completely fallen off the face of the earth in the NFL, doesn't even do a single damn thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, shall we get into our keys of the game?
We should, Sam. I don't know how we're winning this football game, but I'll let you lead this one.
Yeah.
But what do we do?
what do we do? That is the question every single week. Keys to the game. Jordan, you are our guest, so I will allow you to go first. What is your key as, your backups coming in, your starters sitting down? I know it's not really a big game for you, but what are your keys to win this game against the Giants?
Well, honestly, is Drew Lock playing again for you guys? Because he popped off last week. So we're resting a lot of defensive starters as well. So I just think it's going to be that next man up mentality and kind of see how our depth actually is. And just watch those guys. Because like technically, are you guys playing to win? Would you say you're playing to lose, right?
The team is not.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, Drew Lock was out there slinging it. So if he goes out there and he's playing, then these guys gotta stop it.
For sure. It's like kind of like I was saying to Tom earlier, like I never want to root for my team to lose. Like that, it doesn't
can't do it.
It doesn't make sense in my brain to encourage the tank. But obviously when you lose a game, you're like, okay, well, we're one step closer to that number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Like if they win next week, am I going to be like, dang, like not 100%. I'll be like, well, like, come on, let's think about this for a second. But at the same time, it's Drew Lock. Drew Lock is playing out there for himself, I believe, at this point. Like he's playing out there for a job. We don't know if he's going to be on the Giants next year. Like if you could put 40 points up on the board for the first time since 2019, people are gonna see that and be like, well, he did that thing that one time. But Drew Lock really hasn't done a whole lot good for us this season. But who knows? Who knows? I think one of my keys to the game is definitely going to be honing in on whoever it is that your quarterback ends up being, whether it's Tanner or Kenny Pickett or, Ian Book, whoever it is. Even with your starters out, like you guys have a strong line. So I think that that's going to be someone that we have to pressure. We need to make sure that he's not connecting with whoever it is downfield and keep that scoring to a minimum. So, Tom?
Other than not losing, I'll be honest. I just want to beat the Eagles in Philly for once. I mean, look, We're already at 4. I mean, why not back up to 9 at this point? Just shoot ourselves in the foot even more. Damage is already done. Get Malik Neighbors the football and contain Will Shipley for me. D-Bake brought up a good point. It'll likely be more Shipley than Gainwell because Gainwell also plays a role on special teams, and you don't want to risk him much either. So Will Shipley should be the starting running back this week. I know he was dealing with concussion.
Yes, but he was a full participant today. So
he'll be the guy, I think. So that's what I'm looking at. And I mean, you want to blame anyone? Blame the Colts last week for not being able to stop Lee. Career high 171 yards. The way he runs routes is phenomenal. He's been better than both Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze. The only receiver you could argue he hasn't been better than this year is his former LSU teammate, Brian Thomas Jr. out of that 2024 draft class.
We were just talking about him yesterday too.
Yeah.
He's good. And Balky's going to try to find a way to save his job with that draft pick alone, which I know Peterson's a former Eagles coach, but on Monday morning, they should both go.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Bill Belichick wasn't at UNC, we were thinking he was going to go to the Jags.
Yeah.
But obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Dougie P, I can't see him sticking around for much longer down there.
No.
But
I'm honestly surprised he made it this far.
I agree. I thought he was going to get cut mid-season.
Con trusts way too much. Like he loves his coaches. He doesn't like the fire.
That would be me if I was a GM. I'd be like, everyone's doing a great job. No one's going to get fired in the middle of the season. Don't worry about it. All right, let's head into our players to watch for this game. We're kind of up in the air with Eagles because we don't really know who's going to be on the field once the game starts. But Jordan, what are your players to watch? We'll do 2 from the Eagles and 2 from the Giants.
I mean, my 2 from the Giants, these are pretty obvious. Drew Lock and Malik Neighbors, because, I mean, if they get going, then the Eagles have to step it up. And from the Eagles, I'm going to assume Tanner McKee's playing quarterback. Very excited to see a full game out of him. And then, honestly, I'm excited for a Will Shipley show-off game because he was that sneaky late-round draft pick that we really haven't gotten to see much of at all, which is going to be really fun. And if Calcaterra plays, I'm always down for Calcaterra, especially with, starters out. If he can really move, that'd be sick.
Tom?
Nasty Nick Gates. Backup lineman for the Eagles, former Giant, coming over with Saquon this year. He's going to get some huge, massive blocks if he plays. Push those blue helmets back. Get the Eagles some real estate for Will Shipley. He'll give Tanner McKee some good time in the pocket as well. He's definitely one of the better backup linemen in the NFL, despite being a healthy scratch a lot this season. For Philly, he's been a huge underdog story. It's a miracle he's still in the NFL. So shout out to nasty Nick Gates. Might be a little homer bias there, but in all seriousness, I think for Philly, you have to look at Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who might get some reps this week. Playing in the shoes of his dad, Zach Bond, it would be smart for Philly to rest him. I think Trotter has some real potential in the NFL. I mean, Philly's they've developed players so well. I think Trotter could be a potential sideline-to-sideline guy, similar to how he was at Clemson, plus run defender. Good disguise blitzer, too. You could see him confuse Drew Lock a little bit. So those are my 2 for Philadelphia. And then
I like yours better than mine.
What do you
mean? Those were good answers.
Oh. Tom goes, he digs deep to the bottom of the bag and gets those guys out of there every week.
Yeah.
I respect it.
I was definitely going to say Graham Calcaterra as one of my Eagles to watch just because we are notoriously known for not being able to cover tight ends. So there's a big, there's a big chance that he does pop off quite a bit. I'm also going to be keeping my eye on Kenneth Gainwell because he is someone who has, he's no Boston Scott against the New York Giants, but I think that he's the next best thing. Yes, Boston Scott, thank God, no longer on the Eagles for us.
The
But
Giants killer.
yeah, the Giants killer. I definitely think that, offensive weapons who, aren't as much in the spotlight as much as like, Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley are going to be people that are going to pop off, especially with our defense being quite depleted. And for the Giants, I'll stick with Malik here. He's someone who's been doing amazing for us, especially these last few weeks. And his growth so far in the game has been amazing, and his 1,000 yards. And then I'll throw Tyron Tracy in there just because he is like the sunshine of our team. He's like a glowing light running down the field that I'm like, wow, look at that. Look at that man go. Devin Singletary is like, I don't know, dead in a ditch somewhere, apparently. He just like completely fell off the face of the earth. But yeah, I'll say those guys for my players to watch.
Nice.
But yeah.
I want to throw in, if Joe Schoen really wants to keep his job, which, look, he's safe. He shouldn't be safe, but he's safe. Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, your top 2 draft picks who have been lackluster at best through 3 years. I know Thibodeau had 11 sacks last year, but he's back down to 4 this year in just 11 games played. And Evan Neal's finally starting to look competent out there, Sam. I don't know about you. It shouldn't take 3 years for a 7th overall pick, first-round talent to look like a competent NFL offensive lineman.
You would think, but here we are.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. And it sucks. It sucks. Like, don't tell me about one possession games. I mean, it's the same shit every year with this team. Like, every time he gets behind a mic, it says, "Oh yeah, we're close. We're close." Are you really? You've missed several picks your first 2 years as GM, and that's the reason why you're overpaying for these free agent players at offensive line, and you can't bring Saquon back. I mean, forget Daniel Jones for a second. They couldn't bring Saquon back. They couldn't bring McKinney back. They're both Pro Bowlers. They've missed on so many draft picks that they could have kept on cost-controlled contracts, but they can't. So what do? They overpay for those un-premier positions on those draft picks that they miss, and then they can't keep these guys that do deserve to get paid. What's the difference between 12 million and 13.5? I mean, I get it. I'm fine. Saquon wouldn't be doing what he is with the Giants, that he is with Philly. So with the way the organization was headed, it's the right move, but I'm sick and tired of them just not evaluating talent properly. It is a talent evaluation problem. That's why everyone wants the first pick. They know this team can't evaluate talent if they're picking 7th or 9th. They're going to pick the wrong guy anyway. So, oh yeah, Tank, get the number 1 overall pick. It's not going to matter. That just means you don't trust your GM. The best thing to do is to can both. Don't draft the quarterback. Build the pieces, suck again for another 5 years, and then add the quarterback when you're ready to be a competent football team again. It doesn't make sense to draft the quarterback this year. They're going to fail in this system. Mara needs to blow it up, grab a set, and not draft the quarterback. Get the pieces in place. Sign a free agent that wants to be here. Hell, run it back with Drew Lock. I don't care. But something needs to change, and it's deeper than head coach and GM. Just sitting there watching these same guys every week, Tim McDonald, Chris Mara, Kevin Abrams, typing on their phones and their keyboards, jiggling with their hands. Oh, we're really, really close. We're in 6 one-score games this year. Well, if you flip the one-score games, it doesn't always mean you're going to be a good football team. And I'm sick and tired of it. We were in the playoffs 2 years ago, and we've gotten to this point. I'm sorry this rant is over. I can't sit here
Tell him, Tom.
and just expect them to have a quarterback to turn this around. It's not going to happen, and that's it. Both of them need to get fired. Will it happen? No.
You tell him.
Yeah.
You need to sit down.
Preach.
Yeah, you know what? Screw it. Take Arch next year. Make it happen. Just run it back with the Manning. He's the cooler Manning. Let's be completely honest with all of ourselves. That kid is so cool.
He is.
He's so cool. And he's
Right.
mobile. Mannings don't run. Arch does. Because you know what? He came from Cooper and not from Peyton and Eli. Cooper would have been a superstar if he didn't hurt himself. Anyway, I think we should get into our game predictions before we log off here. So, Jordan, as our guest, Take us home.
All right. So I have to pick. This is not. I was gonna go like 41-24, but that seems really dramatic. Let's do like 34-21.
Eagles.
Eagles. Yes. Sorry.
No, it was implied. Tom.
Following that rant, surprise, surprise, I'm going the other way here. Giants win 24-21, winning in Philly for the first time in 12 years. And John Mara goes home asking himself, crap, what do I do now? I think Malik Neighbors might be a problem for second and third stringers. In all seriousness, I think McKee is going to play really, really well. But this is a toss-up type of game. I mean, you can't expect guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau to be playing to the level of backups. If they are, everyone needs to be fired tomorrow. I think the Giants sneak out here with this.
I don't think I'm as optimistic about this, especially after dominating the Colts so hard last week. And it's like, it's really hard for us to do that back-to-back weeks. I won't speak ill of Drew Lock, because he did do well last week, but I just can't see, even with the Eagles starters sitting out, I just don't think it's going to be a bit of a hostile environment for sure down at the Link. They are ruthless over there. I definitely think it's going to just kind of push that atmosphere out there, and I think that the Giants are going to lose, unfortunately. I'm going to be probably in the same range as Jordan. I'll say 34-27. I'll keep it closer.
Okay.
Love it. We can't go with the clean sweep. Otherwise, the Giants will win. Or the team. If I go with Philly, Tom letting it loose. Brian McCardle, thank you. Appreciate you, buddy. Jordan, we appreciate you for coming on, spending time out of your Thursday night. I know it's been a wacky week with the new year, dealing with two people, dealing with some laryngitis type stuff tonight. But where can people find the Unsolicited podcast and the rest of your content?
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. Going to be a good game this weekend, no matter what. You can find the Unsolicited at the Unsolicited_podcast on TikTok and Instagram. You can find us on Twitter at Sam and Jordan. We are on YouTube for our video people, the Unsolicited podcast. And we're also available wherever you get your audio podcasts. Then you can follow all my socials at the Sporty Jordy. And go Birds.
Jordan does that at the end of all of our episodes. So
I know. I was like, I didn't have our little cheat in the corner. So I was like, am I going to be able to remember it? But it was right here.
You got it.
We'll definitely put links in the description for those who want to catch. And I believe your latest episode this week is up, correct? So
yes, went up today.
We'll be looking forward to catching that. Let 26 get his yard. Thank you, Stan Ford. That's one great way to go out. Sam, any final thoughts? Any parting words?
I'll just say that I've had this Giant sweater for many, many months, and I've never worn it before. So that's the state that we're in, even though it's very cute. It's a vintage Giants sweater from Aaron Andrews' line. So that's where my mind's at. Not really all into representing this team right now, unfortunately. So I just want to see good football. I just want to see a good game. Whether or not we win or lose at this point, it's out of our hands. Whatever they decide they're going to do on a Sunday. But hopefully it's not just like awful. That's all I ask.
Absolutely. Thank you all, folks, so much for watching tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Eagles are probably going to win, but we'll keep the faith, keep the hope. If you want to check us out and more of our content, we're at Big Blue Avenue on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where we'll have up-to-date content throughout the course of the week. I know we hit that 9 o'clock whistle, Sam, so going to go in and watch some Ole Miss Duke here tonight. Appreciate you all for tuning in. A very happy new year. On behalf of Jordan, Sam, I'm Tom, and without further ado, let's go Big Blue.